Hey guys, Coach Alex Sterner here with Electrum Performance, and I just want to give you a quick run through on the overall functionality of our app. So when you first open it up, it should look something like what is on the screen right now, except you might not have these nice little green and red dots under each day. I'll go over how exactly we can get to those. First, we're going to click in the upper left corner, and we're just going to look at the basic navigation. So we have a couple options here, the first of which is exercises. We don't really have to go into detail there. That's just going to list the different exercises that may be on our plan. And if you were ever curious, you could scroll through those, but we got bigger fish to fry here. We're going to skip down to groups next. Now, if you go to groups, you should see the group you selected. If that's Team EP, it should appear just like it is on this page. When we click on that, it will first prompt you to sign our waiver, which I believe we have already on this account, so you won't see it here. And we would appreciate if you would go ahead and do that. When we click that drop down from there, there's a couple things that we really want to focus on. And the biggest one here is the resources tab. Sometimes we will make available to you guys very specific topics that will enhance your training. So there's some different training principles, if you see here, things that will help you along with those months, or just things that are fundamental to the way that we work with our clients in person. So these might be worthwhile for you to go through when you have time. It's not absolutely paramount for any one workout, but they should have a pretty positive effect overall. So that should be all we really need from there. And we go back to the overall navigation. Now from there is a messages tab as well. And from there, you are more than welcome to send us a message if you'd like to. But what I would recommend is our Facebook group. We have a Facebook group for customers called Team EP Inner Circle. And on there, you're welcome to ask our staff any sort of questions that you want to. You can also upload form checks and just general training discussions that should help you execute our training plans in a very efficient manner. And then the last thing that we want to click on here before we get into the deep stuff are settings. And on here, there's plenty of things you could change based on your preferences. Really, the only one that's going to make a big difference in terms of how you execute the programs is going back and forth between metric and imperial measurements. So now we want to get to the big stuff. And that's selecting a plan. You didn't just sign up here for a list of random exercises, but if we click on plans here, based on the group that you signed up for, you should have quite a selection of plans to choose from. And I know this is a lot to go off of, but let's say, for example, you have limitations for equipment. We might want to do something like the home workouts here because that would apply best to you. If you aren't really limited based on equipment, try to pick something that you feel applies. If you're returning to the gym, something like the one that's in the middle of the screen now might be a good choice for you. And again, if you're ever not sure, head to the Facebook group, ask us what we think makes the most sense for your scenario, and we'd be more than happy to help you work that out. Now, when you do select a day, you can preview the days. You can really poke around a lot before you add this to your account. There's even a short description here in case you want more info than just the title. Now let's say you come to one that you are happy with. You can hit that start button in the upper right hand corner, and you can select your ideal training days and exactly when you want it to start. You can also choose to get workout reminders via email. And when you hit start plan here on the bottom, it will snap to your calendar on the days that we have selected. Now, since this account already has some days, I'm not going to add it, and we're going to assume it as though we just did that. Now, the next step that we're going to get into is the one that tends to be more fun for people, and we're going to perform a workout. Now, real quick, just to explain what you're seeing on my screen, if there are green days, at first there won't be, but any green dot on a specific day will represent a workout that you've already completed and logged. Red ones are ones that are uncompleted. So we're going to go into one of those. And here we can see the overall structure of our workout. You can notice that this workout is constructed in 2 blocks. We have a strength block made up of the first 4 exercises, and then we have a superset at the end with the last 2. Now, this is just a sample day. The overall structure of the workouts may vary greatly, but in this case, we have those 2 overall training blocks. And in general, things are meant to be completed in the order that they're listed. They're listed usually by order of importance or priority. Now, as we're going through this first exercise, we can see that for the PitShark Stratolift, we have 3 sets of 12 indicated. We can sometimes, in the drop down that I just clicked on, when we get further into the program, it'll start to give indications for suggested weight. And in this case, there is, because in the past, we've already logged this exercise. For any new users, that won't show up yet, but as soon as you get at least a week into your current training plan, those will begin to appear for you. Now, if we're ever not sure about the exercise in question, you're more than welcome to click on the picture of the exercise, and you can usually see a video of myself or Coach Bryce or Coach Anthony performing the exercise. If it requires a lot more explanation, then there will be a verbal explanation as well. And again, if any of that is unclear to you, you can go to the Facebook group and we will answer any sort of questions you have on the execution. We also strongly recommend, whether you use the Facebook group or not, it does make a lot of sense to record yourself training and to see how similar that looks to the video that we have available. Now, as you start getting into later weeks, we can see right here this little icon that looks like a clock in the bottom left. If you click on that, it'll actually show past results. And this has only been logged once, but if there were more than one, then you could scroll all the way down and see your past performance. This could make a lot of sense when you're trying to determine exactly what weight is appropriate for you. You can do that off of your prior performance. Now, other things that we might want to do within a specific exercise. Sometimes there will be additional notes listed here where it says suggested. There are no notes here, but sometimes we'll have something like a pause annotated, so it might make sense to click right next to where I am right now. From there, we can actually, let's say you weren't happy with your first set and you wanted to add one at the end. There's an add set button here, which will add another set, usually of the same rep range of that last one. If you ever wanted to edit or delete anything, that bottom left tool looking button will open up plenty of options where, like, I want to get rid of that set, so I hit the minus sign and delete. You press it again to make it look like it did previously. Now from here, we can go back to the workout and always try to focus on the overall structure of the workout as you're executing it. If you can see that some of the exercises are supersets or are meant to be done as a circuit, generally you'll see that in this screen, and it might not be as obvious to you when it's more zoomed in. So what we want to really make sure that we do is that we input data based on what we actually performed, not necessarily what was indicated. Maybe our third set of dumbbell row, we get to it and we're getting tired and we don't quite get 12 reps, we only get 10. Make sure that your page reflects that, so that as we're referring back or getting suggested weights in future workouts, that it reflects what we actually did in the past, not merely what was suggested by us. You could also add reps if you wanted to as well. And if there are ever block notes for those larger exercise blocks, try to read those as well. They're down at the bottom here right now. You can see them where it says instructions for strength, which is the first block, or instructions for superset, which is that second block. In general, those notes will be very helpful in terms of executing the plan like the coaches indicated when we wrote it. So when we get towards the end of the workout, we can then, the most important thing that we want to make sure that we do is log the workout. And you'll see that log button in the upper right there. We want to do that for a couple reasons, and some of those I've already mentioned. We want to do it so that we can check our past results using that little clock-like icon in a specific exercise. And when you do that, by the way, and we check what we were doing, if you look over 2 buttons to the right of the clock, you can see a note function and you can write notes. And when you go back and check logged workouts, any notes that you wrote on an exercise, maybe you didn't do a third set because you weren't feeling well that day or whatever, it'll provide that further information if you write that down for yourself. So I would suggest doing so. Now, another reason that we would make sure, that we really want to make sure to log the workout is so that you can get those suggested reps that I mentioned. If you're doing the workouts but you're not logging it in the app, it won't have the appropriate data to be able to accurately suggest those, so it simply won't. And the final thing, and in my opinion the most important, is to make sure that you're improving at an appropriate rate. We want to make sure that our efforts are worthwhile. We're paying for this service, we're putting time into it, and it's really important that you're getting out of it what your time should yield. So if you're ever not sure, feel free to go on that Facebook group and ask us. Say, hey, this exercise is stagnant or doesn't seem to be improving as fast as it should, and we could help you troubleshoot that. We could go through your actual form and technique and execution of the exercise. But in general, having access to our coaches like that is going to allow you to really approach or nip those problems in the bud before they become a more significant issue. So never hesitate to ask those questions if you're using, you're logging your workouts and something is jumping out at you like that doesn't seem to be working as though it should. And a really important thing to note is that once you log an entire workout, you can't edit those values after the fact. So just sort of breeze through the workout, make sure that they really reflect what you did, the appropriate weights, appropriate reps. And once you do log it, I'll go to another workout so you can see what it looks like once it's logged, it'll provide some pretty cool metrics up along the top. It'll show you the total time elapsed, if you look in the upper left there. To the right of that, it'll show you the total pounds lifted. It's pretty cool. It's a cool way of showing the total work done, and it's kind of cool to know that you've lifted a couple thousand pounds in that workout. If there's any sort of distance or significant movement involved in that routine, it'll show you the distance you traveled, and then it'll give you a rough estimate as to calories. I wouldn't necessarily bet that is the most accurate thing in the world, but it will be a nice ballpark estimate in terms of the total work performed in that session. And again, that comes down to what you log. So log what you truly did, not what was suggested. So I hope that this was really helpful. Hopefully this allows you guys to really streamline your efforts and dive into these workouts so you can get the most out of it. And like anything else, feel free to ask myself or Coach Bryce or Coach Anthony questions on the Facebook group. Happy training.